In a world overflowing with noise, distraction, and constant demands on our attention, the ability to focus is no longer just a helpful skill. It has become one of the rarest forms of wealth. Think about it for a moment. The world around you is designed to pull your mind in 100 different directions at once. Your phone lights up with messages. The television hums in the background. Endless tabs are open on your computer, and all the while your own thoughts wander from one unfinished task to another. In such a climate, true focus is not just scarce, it is priceless. Whoever can hold their attention steady, like a candle flame that does not flicker even when the wind blows, possesses an advantage that few others will ever experience. This audiobook, The Map of Focus, is more than a collection of techniques. It is a journey, a kind of map, leading you through a noisy world toward the quiet strength of deep concentration. Imagine for a moment that you are holding such a map in your hands. Every road and every landmark on it points not outward but inward, toward the core of your own ability to direct your mind. When you follow this path, you discover that the secret is not to do more, but to do less and to do it with greater depth. Before we go deeper, take a moment with me. Wherever you are right now, whether you are listening in the stillness of night, on your way to work, or in the brief pause of your day, I invite you to comment below where, in the world, you are listening from and what time it is. I love seeing the tapestry of listeners come together, each with their own story, all gathered here at AudioBook Sanctuary. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a journey like this again. Now, let us walk into the story of focus and why it has become the rarest of treasures in our age. You see, focus was not always this scarce. In earlier times, the human mind had long stretches of quiet to settle, to attend to one thing at a time. Imagine the farmer working his fields from sunrise to dusk, his attention absorbed in the rhythms of the earth. Picture the craftsman at his bench, shaping wood or stone without a single digital alert pulling him away. The ancients knew distraction, of course. No life is without interruption. But their world did not conspire to scatter their attention as ours does today. Now, we live in a climate where entire industries thrive on harvesting fragments of our focus, packaging it, and selling it back to us in the form of entertainment, advertising, and endless stimulation. Focus in this new economy has become a currency, and those who can master it hold the keys to creation, clarity, and success. Think of it as gold. Focus is the new gold of the modern world. Just as gold miners once sifted through endless dirt to find shining nuggets, today we sift through endless noise to find moments of clarity. And when we do, those moments shine with more value than ever before. A single hour of true undisturbed concentration can outweigh entire days spent in scattered activity. The world rewards depth, not busyness. It is not the one who touches 1,000 things lightly who prospers, but the one who sinks into a few things deeply, with patience and presence. But here is the paradox. Though focus is the rarest wealth, it lies within reach of anyone willing to reclaim it. It is not reserved for monks on mountaintops or geniuses in hidden laboratories. It belongs to the everyday person, you, sitting here listening. It is a skill, but also a choice, a discipline, and ultimately a way of being. To focus is to decide that not everything deserves your attention, and to give your whole self to the things that matter most. This is why it is rare, because it requires courage. Courage to resist the lure of constant novelty. Courage to say no when the world shouts yes. Courage to endure the discomfort of silence and stillness, while others drown in noise. Focus is rare not because it is impossible, but because it demands a kind of inner strength, a quiet defiance against the flood of distraction that defines our time. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you are standing in the middle of a vast marketplace. All around you, merchants shout for your attention, each louder than the last. Music blares from every stall, lights flash, crowds push past you. Every voice insists, "Look here, this matters." Yet among it all, there is one quiet path that leads away from the noise into a garden where still water reflects the sky. That path is focus. It does not compete for your attention. You must choose it. You must step off the noisy road and walk into the stillness. Most people never do. They spend their lives in the marketplace, pulled in every direction, until their days scatter like dust. But those who dare to take the quiet path discover something remarkable. They can hear their own thoughts again. They can see what truly matters. They can build something lasting. This is why focus is not merely a productivity hack. It is a way of reclaiming your life. Every distraction accepted is a fragment of your life surrendered. Every moment of true concentration is a piece of your life invested. The choice is simple, but profound. Surrender your attention to the noise or invest it in the deep. Those who invest in the deep live lives of richness, meaning, and breakthrough. Those who scatter their attention live lives of constant motion, but little progress. And so, as we begin this map together, understand this. Focus is the gateway to mastery. It is the threshold to all greatness. Every invention, every work of art, every profound relationship, every discovery that shaped humanity, each was born from moments of deep, unbroken attention. Without focus, there is no creation. With focus, even the impossible begins to yield. But if focus is so powerful, why is it so rare today? What has changed in the human experience that makes it harder now than at any point in history to hold our attention steady? That is the mystery we must explore next, because only by understanding the forces that erode our focus can we learn to defend it, strengthen it, and walk the quiet path that leads us deeper. But why has focus become so rare in our time? What has changed in the rhythm of human life that makes the simple act of attending to one thing feel almost impossible? The answer lies in the invisible currents of our daily environment, currents designed to capture, scatter, and sell our attention. Imagine waking up in the morning. Before your feet touch the ground, your phone is already in your hand. A notification glows, a message arrives, a headline flashes. Each ping feels small, but each one is like a tiny hook pulling at your mind. Throughout the day, more arrive. Emails, reminders, news alerts, social media updates. The average person checks their phone hundreds of times a day, not because they truly need to, but because the habit has been carved deep into their nervous system. The result? A mind that is always split, always fragmented, always reaching outward, but never resting inward. It is not simply that we are distracted. It is that distraction has become the default state of modern existence. The devices we use, the platforms we visit, the advertisements we scroll past, all are engineered with one purpose: to capture attention. Entire industries thrive on the fact that your focus is limited and can be harvested. Each ding and buzz is not random, it is intentional. A carefully designed system invites you to glance, then lingers, then hooks you in. And before long, minutes turn into hours and you cannot remember where your day has gone. But this erosion of attention is not confined to technology. Walk into an office and notice the constant hum of interruptions, colleagues stopping by, emails demanding immediate reply, meetings scheduled back to back without pause. Sit at home and you may find yourself half watching a show, half checking your messages, half thinking about tomorrow's tasks. Notice that word, half. Modern life has trained us to live in halves, rarely whole, rarely present, always divided, always pulled in multiple directions. And when the mind is split, depth is impossible. This constant division has a cost far greater than lost time. It erodes our capacity for stillness, patience, and deep thought. The human brain is not designed for endless switching. Each time you move from one task to another, a small residue of the first lingers. Scientists call this attention residue, but you do not need science to feel it. You know the sense of being half absorbed in a new task, while part of your mind is still stuck in the last one. This residue builds up layer after layer until your focus becomes clouded and shallow. You may work long hours, but the depth of your effort has thinned. And yet many wear this scattered state as a badge of honor. We boast of multitasking, of juggling endless things at once, as though busyness were proof of importance. But here lies the tragedy. Busyness is not focus. Activity is not achievement. Noise is not progress. You can spin like a wheel all day and still go nowhere. True forward motion requires something far rarer, the ability to hold attention on one path until it yields results. Pause for a moment and consider, how many times today has your focus been broken? How many times have you begun one thing, only to drift into another? How many conversations were half heard? How many moments half lived because your attention was elsewhere? The truth is sobering, but it is not hopeless, for if distraction is designed, then focus can be designed as well. If the world is engineered to scatter you, then you can learn to engineer your own habits to gather yourself again. Think of your attention as water. Left unchecked, it seeps into every crack, spreading thin and shallow. But when gathered into a single stream, it gains force. When dammed and directed, it gains power. The challenge of our age is not that we lack attention, it is that we allow it to scatter. The solution is to reclaim it, to hold it steady, to channel it with intention. Edgar Cayce once described the human mind as both a receiver and a transmitter of energy. In his vision, thoughts are not random sparks, but vibrations that shape reality. If this is true, then every time we allow our focus to be fractured, our energy scatters. But when we bring the mind into alignment, when we quiet the noise, our thoughts become like a laser, concentrated, creative, transformative. Cayce's insight echoes what we feel intuitively. That focus is not just mental, it is spiritual. To give attention is to give life force. To scatter attention is to scatter life itself. And so, if the modern world has made distraction the default, our task is to make focus a deliberate choice. That choice begins with awareness, seeing clearly how often we are pulled away, how easily we surrender to the tug of notifications and noise. For when you can see the problem, you can begin to change it. The next step is to ask, if multitasking scatters me, what practice can gather me again? If noise weakens me, what discipline can strengthen me? This is where we move beyond the myth of multitasking into the wisdom of single-minded depth. And so the path turns. If we have uncovered the problem, the rarity of attention in a world of constant interruption, the next step is to dismantle the illusion that multitasking makes us stronger. For it is there, in the myth of doing more, that the roots of our scattered lives are found. Multitasking has long been celebrated as a badge of efficiency, a mark of productivity, a supposed gift for those who can juggle 10 things at once without letting any fall. But beneath the surface, the truth is far different. Multitasking is not mastery, it is fragmentation. It is not doing more. It is doing less with greater confusion. Like a juggler with too many balls in the air, you may keep them spinning for a while. But each one is barely touched before the next demands your hand. And eventually the weight becomes too great, and everything comes crashing down. The human brain was never designed for true multitasking. What feels like handling many things at once is, in fact, rapid switching. Attention darting from one task to another, leaving behind fragments of thought each time. Every switch comes at a cost. Like a traveler leaving one village for another, you must pack up your mind, carry the baggage, and unpack it again. This constant switching is exhausting, not energizing. It drains your mental reserves, leaving you tired, but strangely unfulfilled, busy, but strangely unproductive. Think of a craftsman carving wood. Imagine him striking once, then immediately setting down his chisel to hammer a nail, then dropping that to paint a stroke, then abandoning it to polish another piece. By the end of the day, nothing is complete. Each project lies unfinished, scattered like debris around the workshop. This is the life of multitasking, effort without depth, motion without completion. The craftsman who focuses, on the other hand, carves deeply, finishes fully, and produces something enduring. His strength lies not in doing many things lightly, but in doing one thing completely. Yet our culture idolizes the myth of multitasking. Job descriptions praise it. Managers demand it. Technology encourages it. We measure ourselves not by the depth of our achievements, but by the number of tabs open on our screens, the length of our to-do lists, the volume of messages answered. We confuse busyness with worth, speed with effectiveness. But true accomplishment has never been about doing more. It has always been about doing what matters and doing it well. Edgar Cayce often spoke of the importance of singleness of purpose. To him, scattered energy led to scattered results, while unified intention shaped destiny itself. He suggested that when a person aligns thought, feeling, and action toward a single purpose, they touch something greater than themselves. This teaching resonates with the very problem we face in the modern myth of multitasking. When our thoughts are divided, our power is diluted. When our attention is fractured, our results are fragile. But when we draw everything into one current, our energy becomes creative, powerful, transformative. Consider how you feel when you are half listening to a loved one while scrolling through your phone. You may hear their words, but the depth of connection is lost. The conversation becomes shallow, the bond weakened. Or imagine writing an important paper while checking messages every few minutes. Each interruption breaks the thread, and by the time you return, you must stitch your mind back together. What could have been an hour of deep progress becomes a day of scattered starts. This is the hidden cost of multitasking, the illusion of progress without the substance of completion. We chase many things lightly, but we hold nothing deeply. And yet, when we turn away from this illusion, when we resist the lure of doing more, we discover something far greater: the capacity for deep work. The truth is simple but radical. Doing one thing with full attention is more powerful than doing 10 things with divided attention. 1 hour of single-minded work can equal an entire day of fragmented effort. One conversation fully heard can heal a relationship. One idea pursued deeply can change the course of a career. The map of focus begins here, with the courage to let go of the myth of multitasking and to embrace the power of depth. It takes humility to accept this. It takes courage to tell yourself, I will not chase everything at once. I will choose one path and walk it with presence. It may feel uncomfortable at first, even frightening. You may feel you are falling behind, that the world is moving faster than you. But here is the paradox. When you slow down, when you resist the frenzy, when you do less but deeper, you move faster in the only way that matters. You move toward mastery. So the myth must be broken. Multitasking is not strength. It is weakness disguised as activity. True strength lies in gathering your energy into one place, holding it steady, and working until the depth reveals its reward. And that reward is the doorway to the next great truth, the practice of deep works. For if multitasking scatters us, then deep work gathers us. If the myth of doing more thins us out, then the practice of doing less but deeper makes us whole again. If multitasking scatters us, then deep work gathers us. That the phrase may sound modern, but the truth it points to is timeless. Deep work is the act of giving yourself wholly, without division, to a single task of value. It is the opposite of fractured attention, the antidote to the shallow state in which most of us spend our days. When you enter deep work, you step out of the noise and into a current that carries you toward mastery, creativity, and meaning. Picture yourself sitting at a desk, a blank page before you. Around you, the world hums with interruptions, messages, voices, the flicker of screens. But you turn away from it all. You close the door, silence the noise, and take a breath. Then you begin. At first, your mind twitches, craving distraction. But as minutes pass, something shifts. Your thoughts steady, your focus sharpens, and suddenly the words begin to flow. The task that once felt heavy now feels alive. You are no longer forcing yourself to work, you are absorbed in it. Hours pass unnoticed. This is deep work. It is more than productivity. It is a state of being. In deep work, time bends. A single hour feels rich, filled, expansive. What would have taken a full day in shallow, distracted effort is now completed with clarity and strength. This is why deep work is the gateway to extraordinary results. It is not about working harder, but about working truer, directing your full self to one meaningful pursuit until it yields fruit. Deep work is not new. Long before the phrase was coined, monks practiced it in silent monasteries, artists disappeared into their studios, scientists retreated into solitude to wrestle with the mysteries of the universe. Every masterpiece, every breakthrough discovery, every great invention was born not in the blur of multitasking, but in the furnace of concentrated attention. Thomas Edison sealed himself away in his laboratory for days at a time, ignoring the outside world until his experiments revealed their secrets. Writers from Tolstoy to Hemingway locked themselves in rooms for long hours, emerging only when the words had poured forth. Even Cayce, in his own way, entered a deep state of concentration in his readings, focusing so wholly that he could access realms of insight beyond ordinary perception. To practice deep work is to reclaim this ancient rhythm in a modern world. It is to push back against the tide of constant interruptions and declare, here now, this one thing matters. It is to build an inner sanctuary where the noise cannot reach, a sacred space where your mind can settle and create. But deep work does not come cheaply. It demands resistance to the easy pleasures of distraction. It asks you to endure the initial discomfort of silence, the itch to check your messages, the restless tug of unfinished tasks. It requires discipline. The discipline to stay, to sink deeper, to let the surface chatter fall away until only the essence remains. Yet this very discipline is what sets apart the extraordinary from the ordinary. For while most skim the surface, only a few dare to dive deep, and those few uncover treasures hidden from the rest. Imagine the ocean. At the surface, waves crash, winds howl, ships toss. It is chaotic, restless, shallow. But dive beneath and the chaos fades. The deeper you go, the calmer it becomes until you reach a stillness vast and profound. Deep work is this dive. Most people live on the surface, tossed about by every wave of distraction. But when you choose deep work, you descend into a quieter realm where clarity is possible, where creation unfolds, where breakthroughs are born. And the beauty is this: anyone can dive. You do not need genius, only willingness. You do not need a perfect environment, only the decision to shut out the noise for a time. The door to deep work is always open. It waits only for you to step through. This, then, is the map's first great treasure, the practice of deep work. It is the gathering of your mind into one point, the directing of your energy toward one path, the shaping of your time into something sacred. And once you taste it, once you feel the power of being wholly absorbed in a single task, you will never again be satisfied with the shallows. But deep work is not only a practice, it is a doorway to something even greater, the flow state, that mysterious zone where time disappears and you merge fully with the work itself. If deep work is the gate, flow is the garden beyond it, where your best self comes alive. And that is where our journey now leads. There is a place beyond ordinary concentration, a state so absorbing that time itself seems to vanish. Psychologists call it flow, but you may have felt it without knowing its name. It is the moment when you are so immersed in what you are doing that everything else falls away. The clock, the noise, even your sense of self. You are not forcing effort anymore. The effort becomes effortless. Your skills and the challenge before you meet in perfect balance, and the result is a kind of timeless immersion. Think back to a moment in your life when hours passed like minutes. Maybe you were painting, writing, solving a problem, playing music, or even having a deep conversation with someone you love. When you finally looked up, the day was gone. But instead of feeling drained, you felt alive, expanded, fulfilled. That is flow. It is not shallow busyness, but deep engagement, and it is one of the most rewarding states a human being can experience. Flow is not an accident. It follows certain conditions. To enter it, you must be working on something that stretches you, but not so much that it overwhelms you. If the task is too easy, your mind wanders. If it is too hard, you become anxious. Flow lives in the space between, where your skill meets just enough challenge to pull you forward. Add to this an environment free from distraction, a clear goal before you, and immediate feedback on your progress, and suddenly you're drawn into the current of flow. Edgar Cayce, in his language, might have described this as the moment when body, mind, and spirit align, when you are no longer divided, when your purpose, your action, and your energy all move in one direction. You touch something higher than yourself. Cayce often spoke of harmony, of attunement, of becoming a channel for something greater. Flow, in this sense, is not merely psychological, it is spiritual. It is the experience of being tuned to the deeper rhythms of life, of allowing creation to move through you rather than forcing it from yourself. Think of an athlete who seems unstoppable on the field. Every movement precise, every decision instinctive. Or a musician lost in the melody, fingers flying across the instrument as if guided by something unseen. Or a writer pouring words onto the page as though they were flowing through rather than from them. In these moments, people do not just perform, they transcend. They are no longer separate from the task. They are the task, the action, the music, the game. Flow is the reward of focus. It is what lies beyond the struggle of resisting distraction, beyond the discipline of deep work. At first, focus feels like effort. It demands that you silence your phone, shut the door, sit still. But when you stay long enough, when you endure the restlessness, you break through into a state where effort transforms into ease. It is like climbing a steep mountain. The ascent is hard, every step a strain. But reach the ridge, and suddenly the view opens, the wind clears, and the struggle is replaced by wonder. Flow is the ridge. And the beauty of flow is not only in the experience itself, but in the results it produces. Work done in flow carries a different quality. It is deeper, more creative, more enduring. Problems that seemed impossible reveal solutions. Ideas connect in ways you could not force. The output is not just more, it is better. Flow is where innovation happens, where breakthroughs occur, where lives are transformed. Yet most people rarely enter this state. Why? Because they live at the surface, constantly pulled by distractions, never giving themselves the time or stillness to sink deep enough. Flow does not happen in fragments. It does not arrive in 2-minute intervals between messages. It comes only when you guard your time, focus your attention, and allow the immersion to deepen. Imagine again that you are a traveler on this map of focus. Deep work was the gateway you passed through, the decision to commit yourself fully to one task. Flow is the landscape you now step into, vast and rich, where your best self comes alive. But to journey deeper, you need a compass, a way to ensure that you are directing your attention toward the right things, not just immersing yourself for the sake of immersion. For it is possible to focus deeply on the wrong path, to master the trivial while neglecting the essential. This is where the principle of the 80-20 rule, the law of the vital few, becomes the next marker on the map. It is the compass that points not just to depth, but to depth in the right direction. For what good is focus if it is spent on what does not matter? What good is flow if it carries you down the wrong stream? To guard against this, we must learn to recognize the golden 20% that produces the majority of our results, and to give our depth there. To walk the path of focus is not only to go deeper, but to go deeper in the right direction. For even the most disciplined attention can be wasted if it is poured into the wrong vessel. This is where the compass comes in. The principle often called the 80-20 rule, or the law of the vital few. It tells us something startling, that most of what we do contributes little, while a small portion produces almost everything that matters. 80% of results often come from 20% of effort. The task, then, is not simply to work harder, but to identify the golden 20%, the true points of leverage where your focus will yield the greatest return. Think of a miner searching for gold. He could dig endlessly in barren soil, sweating and straining with little to show. Or he could study the land, learn where the veins run deep, and sink his pickaxe in the one place where treasure lies hidden. The miner who works wisely may strike more wealth in one well-placed dig than another strikes in a lifetime of aimless labor. So it is with focus. Without a compass, you may work long and hard, but end up only tired. With the compass of the 80-20 principle, you aim your energy where it matters most, and suddenly, every strike counts. Pause for a moment and consider your own life. Of all the things you do in a day, how many truly matter? How many move you closer to your purpose, your goals, your deepest values? Often, if we are honest, the list is shorter than we think. A handful of tasks bring real progress. A handful of relationships nourish us deeply. A handful of habits shape our future. The rest, though noisy, may contribute little. This is the hard truth. Most of what consumes our time is not essential. But this truth is also a liberation, for it means you do not need to do everything. You only need to do the few things that matter most, and to do them deeply. Edgar Cayce often spoke of alignment, aligning the outer with the inner, the daily with the eternal. He suggested that when people scatter themselves in too many directions, they lose power. But when they center on the vital few, they become instruments of purpose. This echoes the wisdom of the 80-20 compass. It is not about cramming more into your day, but about clearing away the trivial many so the vital few can shine. When your work, your relationships, your actions align with this principle, your life gains coherence. Every hour, every effort, every word carries weight. But here is the challenge. The trivial often disguises itself as urgent. Emails, notifications, shallow requests, they shout loudly, demanding immediate attention. The vital, on the other hand, often whispers. It waits quietly, asking for patience, for depth. The urgent is seductive. The important is subtle. Without awareness, you may spend your days chasing noise, while the things that truly matter languish in neglect. To follow the compass, you must learn to discern the difference. One way to do this is to ask, if I could only do one thing today that would truly matter, what would it be? Another question, if this task disappeared from my life forever, would it really make a difference? By asking these, you begin to separate the essential from the trivial. You begin to see where the gold lies and where the dirt only weighs you down. Imagine a tree. Its branches are many, spreading wide, catching the eye. But the life of the tree does not come from the branches, it comes from the roots. Focus on the branches, and you will be lost in a tangle. Focus on the roots, and you nourish the whole. The 80-20 principle is about finding the roots. It is about placing your focus on the few things that sustain everything else. Once you know your golden 20%, the task becomes clear. Guard it, nurture it, give it your deepest work. Do not scatter your attention on barren soil. Plant yourself where the roots run deep, and you will grow stronger, steadier, more fruitful. But if the compass shows us where to go, the road is still filled with obstacles. Distractions crowd the path, clamoring for attention, pulling us away from the vital few and back into the trivial many. Knowing where to focus is not enough. You must also defend that focus. And this leads us to the next step on the map. Learning to clear the clutter, to strip away the distractions, to create an environment where your focus can thrive. To know the golden 20% is one thing, to protect it is another. You can discover the tasks that matter most, the relationships that truly nourish, the pursuits that yield real value. But unless you guard them, the noise of the world will drown them out. This is the great challenge of focus. Not only to see the treasure, but to defend it. For distractions never sleep. They come in every form: urgent messages, endless obligations, subtle temptations, even well-meaning people who unknowingly pull you away from what matters most. Think of your time and attention as a vault filled with gold. If you leave the doors open, anyone can wander in and take what they please. But if you guard it with vigilance, if you protect it with locks and walls, the treasure remains intact. Your focus is this treasure. And like any treasure, it attracts thieves. Some distractions steal seconds, others steal years. A few may even steal entire lifetimes if we are not watchful. How then do we guard the gold of our focus? The first step is awareness. Most people lose their attention not because they decide to, but because they do not even notice it slipping away. They scroll without thought, say yes without reflection, answer without pause. To protect focus, you must first wake up to the leaks. Pay attention to what drains you, to the places where your attention bleeds away. Each time you notice, you reclaim a piece of yourself. The second step is boundaries. A boundary is a line drawn to keep the vital safe from the trivial. It may be a boundary of time, choosing hours when you will not answer messages. It may be a boundary of space, designating a room or desk as sacred for focused work. It may be a boundary of relationships, learning to say no when others ask you to scatter yourself across their priorities instead of your own. Boundaries may feel uncomfortable at first, even selfish, but they are in truth an act of honor. By guarding your focus, you honor both yourself and the work you are called to do. Edgar Cayce often emphasized the importance of intention. He taught that when a person sets an intention clearly and holds to it, they align themselves with higher currents of energy. Guarding your focus, then, is not just a matter of productivity. It is a spiritual act. It is saying to the universe, "This matters, and I will not let it be stolen." And when you hold this posture, you often find that life itself rearranges around your clarity. Doors open, noise fades, strength gathers. But guarding focus also requires courage. Distractions often come disguised as opportunities. A colleague asks for help. A new project tempts you. A device hums with the promise of connection. To say no feels risky, even frightening. What if you miss out? What if you disappoint someone? Yet every yes is also a no to your own priorities, your own depth, your own path. Guarding the goal means accepting that you cannot please everyone, that you cannot do everything, that you will miss some things so you can gain the right things. Picture a lighthouse on a rocky shore. Its light does not spin wildly in every direction, trying to illuminate the whole horizon. It turns with steady rhythm, pointing its beam where it matters most, to guide ships safely through the storm. Your focus must be the same. If you try to shine everywhere, you will shine nowhere. If you guard your beam and direct it, you will light the way. And there is another truth. Guarding focus is not just about saying no to others. It is also about saying no to yourself, to the urge to check your phone, to the itch to wander, to the craving for novelty when the real work demands patience. This is the hardest guard of all, for it requires mastery of the inner self. But the more you practice, the stronger you become. Each moment of resistance builds muscle. Each act of guarding strengthens the vault. Still, vigilance alone is not enough. To protect your focus, you must also shape your environment so that it supports you instead of sabotaging you. A cluttered space invites a cluttered mind. A noisy environment invites a noisy heart. To truly thrive, focus must be nurtured, like a seed planted in soil prepared for growth. And so, the next step on the map leads us to clearing the clutter, to designing a life and space where your focus can flourish. If guarding your focus is like protecting treasure, then clearing the clutter is like preparing the land where that treasure can grow. Focus does not thrive in chaos. A mind surrounded by constant noise, a desk buried in disorder, a day broken into fragments. All of these choke the roots of concentration before it can take hold. To focus deeply, you must create an environment that invites depth, an atmosphere where your mind can settle and your attention can root itself. Think of a garden. A gardener knows that before planting seeds, the soil must be cleared of weeds, rocks, and debris. Without this preparation, the richest seed will struggle to grow. The same is true for focus. No matter how strong your intention, if your environment is filled with clutter, both physical and digital, it will constantly pull you away from the work that matters. The weeds of distraction will choke the sprouts of clarity. Start with the physical. Look at the space where you work or think most often. Is it filled with unnecessary objects, piles of papers, reminders of half-finished tasks? Each item speaks. Each one pulls a thread of your attention. even if only unconsciously. A clear desk is not about minimalism for its own sake. It is about freeing your mind from background noise so it can give itself fully to the task at hand. When you sit down to work, your environment should whisper one thing: this matters. Focus here. Then consider the digital. Your phone, your computer, your tablet. These are not neutral tools. They are environments in themselves, and many are cluttered beyond measure. Endless apps, constant alerts, streams of content designed to grab your eyes and hold them hostage. To clear digital clutter is to silence these voices, to reclaim the ability to choose when and where your attention goes. This may mean turning off notifications, deleting apps that drain you, or setting boundaries for when you will and will not connect. Each small act clears space in the soil of your mind, making room for focus to grow. But clutter is not only physical or digital. There is also mental clutter, the swirling of unfinished tasks, the echo of unresolved conversations, the weight of decisions left hanging. These fragments fill your inner space, making it hard to sink deeply into anything. One way to clear this is through the simple act of writing. Take a few minutes to pour every lingering thought, every unfinished task, every worry onto paper. Do not judge, do not organize, just empty the mind. Then look at the list. Choose what truly matters now and release the rest. In this way, you create mental room for concentration. Edgar Cayce often spoke about creating harmony between the inner and outer life. He suggested that the state of your surroundings reflects the state of your mind and vice versa. To bring order to one is to bring order to the other. Clearing clutter, then, is not just about tidiness. It is a spiritual discipline. It is the act of aligning your environment with your intention, of shaping a space where your higher purpose can breathe. Imagine stepping into such a space. The desk is clear, the phone is silent, the room carries a quiet calm. As you sit down, nothing clamors for your attention except the task you have chosen. Your mind exhales, your body relaxes, and focus comes more naturally. This is the power of environment. It does not force focus, it invites it. It removes friction so that attention can flow freely. And yet, clearing clutter is not a one-time act. Just as a garden must be weeded regularly, so too must your environment be tended. Distractions creep back in, objects pile up, habits slip. To maintain clarity, you must return again and again to the work of clearing, of choosing simplicity over chaos. Each act is a reminder that focus is not only about willpower, but about design. When you learn to design your environment for focus, you gain an ally. Instead of battling distractions at every turn, you create a space where they cannot thrive. This is how you move from fragile focus, easily broken, to resilient focus, strong, steady, enduring. But clearing clutter alone is not enough. Once the soil is prepared, once the weeds are gone, the next step is to plant time itself with intention. To carve out blocks of pure attention, guarded from intrusion, where deep work can unfold. This is the art of structuring your hours, of using methods like the Pomodoro technique to harness rhythm and momentum. From the cleared soil, we now turn to the cultivation of time blocks of power. If your environment is the soil in which focus can grow, then your use of time is the water that nourishes it. Without deliberate care, time slips through your fingers like sand, scattered across interruptions and half-finished tasks. But when you shape time into clear, concentrated blocks, you transform it into a powerful current that drives your work forward. These are the time blocks of power, dedicated periods where your focus is unbroken, your energy is gathered, and your results multiply. Most people treat time as something to be filled, a container into which they cram as many activities as possible. Meetings stack upon meetings. Tasks pile on tasks, until the day becomes a blur of motion without meaning. But the secret of powerful focus is not to fill time, but to carve it. To create protected spaces where one thing, and only one thing, receives your full attention. One of the simplest yet most effective methods for this is the Pomodoro technique. It works like this. Set a timer for 25 minutes and commit yourself wholly to a single task until the timer rings. Then rest briefly, perhaps 5 minutes, before beginning another round. After several rounds, take a longer break. Though simple, this method harnesses rhythm. It tells your mind, for this brief stretch, nothing else matters. The boundary of time frees you to dive in without fear of endless effort. The pause that follows allows you to recharge before diving again. But beyond techniques, the deeper principle is this. Focus requires rhythm. Just as the heart beats in steady pulses, just as the ocean moves in waves, so too must your attention follow cycles of immersion and renewal. Work deeply for a time, then rest. Dive into concentration, then surface to breathe. In this rhythm, you find both endurance and depth. Edgar Cayce often emphasized balance between body and mind, effort and rest, work and renewal. He suggested that imbalance scatters energy, while rhythm restores harmony. When you structure your time into blocks, you are practicing this balance. You are honoring both the need for deep concentration and the need for recovery. And in this balance, your focus grows strong. Imagine your day as a series of gates. Each gate opens only when you choose to walk through it. If you drift aimlessly, you may never pass through any gate fully, wandering instead between them, half entered, half abandoned. But if you choose one, step through, and remain within it for a time, you discover what lies beyond. Time blocks are these gates. They ask you to choose deliberately. For this hour, this task is my world. For this block, nothing else exists. And when you honor that choice, the gate opens into a depth you could not reach otherwise. The power of time blocks is not only in the productivity they bring, but in the freedom they create. When you know you have given yourself fully to one thing for a set period, you release the guilt of the unfinished. You no longer feel the constant tug of, I should be doing more. You know that you have done what you set out to do, and you can rest without anxiety. This freedom is rare in our age, where most people live in a state of constant, low-grade guilt. Always busy, never enough. Structured time breaks this cycle. Yet, even with time blocks, there remains a deeper challenge. For no matter how you structure your hours, the constant presence of digital noise threatens to invade. Notifications, screens, endless streams of content, they seep into every gap, eroding the clarity you fight to create. To truly claim your time, you must go further. You must not only carve blocks, but also detox the very systems that seek to consume them. You must reclaim your mental energy from the machines that scatter it. This is where the path turns toward a practice many resist, yet desperately need: the digital detox. It is the discipline of stepping away from the constant flood of information and giving your mind the gift of silence. For only in silence can attention breathe. Only in stillness can focus deepen. Without detox, your time blocks will always be fragile, vulnerable to invasion. With detox, they become fortresses. And so, from the art of shaping time into powerful rhythms, we now move to the courage of disconnecting. For in a world wired to keep us always online, stepping away is an act of rebellion and of liberation. The modern world is wired to keep you always on, always available, always consuming. Every ping, every scroll, every endless feed is designed not to serve you, but to keep you hooked, And while technology is a powerful servant, it is a terrible master. When it rules your attention, it scatters your life. This is why the practice of digital detox is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity. It is the act of reclaiming your mind from machines that feed on it, of stepping back from the noise to rediscover silence, depth, and clarity. Think about how often you reach for your phone without even meaning to. It is there on the table, glowing, whispering promises of novelty. Each time you pick it up, you feed a cycle. The more you check, the more you crave, the more restless your mind becomes. You may sit down to work, but within minutes you are pulled into an endless stream of headlines, messages, or videos. Hours slip away. Your energy fractures. Your ability to focus atrophies. This is not weakness on your part, it is design. The platforms are engineered to capture your focus. The only way to win is not to play. A digital detox does not mean rejecting technology altogether. It means reclaiming your choice. It is deciding when and how you will connect, instead of allowing algorithms to decide for you. It can be as simple as setting aside hours each day when devices are off. It can be as radical as taking entire days or weekends disconnected. The key is intentionality. By stepping away, you give your nervous system a chance to reset. You rediscover what it feels like to have thoughts of your own, to let attention settle instead of being constantly hijacked. Edgar Cayce, in his readings, often urged people to seek balance between the inner and outer life. He spoke of silence, prayer, and meditation as ways of tuning the mind to higher frequencies. In our age, a digital detox serves a similar purpose. It is a fast from noise, a retreat from the constant external pull, so that you can hear the inner voice again. Without this pause, the signal of your soul is drowned by static. With it, you begin to sense direction, clarity, and peace. Imagine what might happen if you gave yourself a single, uninterrupted evening without screens. The first moments might feel restless, even uncomfortable. Your mind, used to constant stimulation, will itch for the fix of a notification. But if you resist, something shifts. You begin to notice your surroundings. The quiet hum of the evening, the breath moving in your chest, the presence of loved ones near you. Ideas that were buried under noise begin to surface. You may find yourself writing, reflecting, or simply resting in a way you have not in years. This is the gift of detox, not emptiness, but renewal. Practical steps can help. Leave your phone in another room when you sleep. Create device-free zones in your home. Use apps or settings to limit usage. Replace scrolling with activities that nourish you, reading, walking, journaling, or simply being still. At first, it feels like deprivation. Soon, it feels like freedom. You realize how much of your life had been leaking away in fragments, and how powerful it feels to hold your attention again. But digital detox is not only about devices. It is about your relationship with all forms of noise. It is choosing silence over constant input, depth over shallow stimulation. It is stepping out of the flood so you can walk your own path again. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. The mind, once addicted to novelty, rediscovers its love for stillness. The heart, once restless, learns to rest. Yet there is one obstacle that even detox cannot remove: the demands of others. Friends, colleagues, even family may pull at your focus, asking you to scatter yourself for their sake. And here, the greatest act of protection remains: the art of saying no. For until you learn to decline the demands that do not serve your path, your focus will never truly be safe. This is the next step in our map. Learning to say no, not with anger, but with clarity and strength, as an act of love for what matters most. There comes a moment on the map of focus where the greatest threat is no longer technology, clutter, or even your own restlessness. The greatest threat becomes the expectations of others. Requests arrive at your door, often wrapped in politeness or urgency. Can you help with this? Could you join this meeting? Would you mind taking this on? Each request may seem small, but together they form a flood that can sweep away the golden hours you work so hard to protect. Unless you learn the art of saying no, your focus will never truly be your own. Saying no is not easy. Many of us fear it. We fear disappointing others, missing opportunities, or seeming selfish. We have been trained to equate agreement with kindness and refusal with rejection. But here's the truth. Every yes you give to something unimportant is a no to something vital. Each time you say yes to distraction, you are saying no to depth. Each time you say yes to the trivial many, you are saying no to the vital few. To protect your focus, you must reverse this equation. You must say no to what does not matter so you can say yes, fully and deeply, to what does. Think of a sculptor standing before a block of marble. He does not add to it, he removes. He chips away the excess to reveal the form hidden within. In the same way, saying no is an act of sculpting your life. Each refusal removes a piece of excess, leaving behind only what is essential. It is not destruction, it is creation. By saying no, you reveal the shape of your true priorities. Edgar Cayce often emphasized purpose. He taught that when a person lives without clarity of purpose, they drift, pulled by the currents of others' demands. But when they center on what truly matters, they align with forces greater than themselves. To say no, then, is not merely personal, it is spiritual. It is the act of honoring the purpose for which you were given life and refusing to squander it on what does not serve that purpose. But how do you say no without guilt, without severing relationships, without building walls? The answer lies in clarity and kindness. A clear no spoken with respect often strengthens a relationship rather than weakens it. People may not like your refusal, but they will respect your honesty. A vague yes, followed by half-hearted effort or silent resentment, does far more harm. Saying no with kindness is not selfishness, it is integrity. You might say, I appreciate you thinking of me, but I need to give my energy to something I've already committed to. Or that's not something I can take on right now, but thank you for asking. These are not harsh words. They are honest boundaries. They protect your focus while honoring the dignity of the one who asked. Over time, people learn that your yes means yes and your no means no. And this builds trust. Of course, there will still be times when saying no feels heavy, when the pressure of expectation presses hard against you. In those moments, remember the deeper truth. You are not refusing the person. You are protecting the work, the purpose, the relationships that matter most. Every no is also a yes to your health, your family, your calling, your growth. Seen this way, no becomes not rejection, but devotion. Imagine a path through a dense forest. At every fork, voices call out, "Come this way." "No, this way." If you follow every call, you will wander endlessly, never reaching the clearing. But if you choose with clarity, if you say no to the wrong turns, you move steadily toward the light. Your life is this path. Your no is the compass that keeps you moving forward. And so, the art of saying no becomes one of the highest skills of focus. It transforms your scattered yes into a deliberate, powerful yes. It frees you from the tyranny of others' demands and anchors you in your own direction. Without it, every other practice, deep work, time blocks, detox, remains fragile. With it, your focus becomes unshakable. But what is the fruit of all this discipline? What happens when you master the art of saying no, when you protect your focus, when you give yourself wholly to the vital few? The answer is not simply productivity, it is transformation. For when you do less, but do it deeply, you touch mastery. You begin to live a life not of endless motion, but of profound depth. This is where the map now leads us, to the truth that less, when done with depth, is the path to greatness. We live in a culture that praises more tasks, more goals, more commitments, more noise. The shelves of bookstores are filled with promises to help you do more in less time, to push harder, to squeeze every second until nothing is left. But the map of focus reveals a different truth, a radical truth. The path to mastery is not through more, but through less. Less, when embraced with depth, leads to transformation. Doing fewer things, but doing them with your whole self, produces results that no amount of shallow busyness ever can. Consider the craftsman again. One pours his energy into 100 shallow projects, leaving behind fragments scattered across the workshop floor. Another chooses a single piece of wood and devotes himself fully to it. Slowly, with care, with patience, he carves, sands, shapes, and polishes. When he is finished, what he has made is not just an object, but a work of art. The difference is not talent, it is depth. This principle is not limited to work. It touches every part of life. In relationships, depth means listening with your whole heart rather than half your attention. In learning, it means studying one idea deeply until it shapes your mind, instead of skimming 1,000 ideas that never sink in. In spiritual practice, it means stillness and sincerity, not a rushed ritual checked off a list. Everywhere in life, less but deeper is the doorway to meaning. Edgar Cayce often warned against scattering energy across too many directions. He taught that the soul grows through focus, that each life is given opportunities to deepen in particular lessons. When we chase everything at once, we dilute those lessons. But when we give ourselves to the vital few, we discover purpose. Depth in this way is not only practical, but sacred. It is the way the soul matures, the way the spirit learns to embody truth. There is a paradox here. When you live deeply instead of widely, you appear to be doing less. From the outside, you may seem slower, quieter, less busy. But from the inside, you know that each act carries weight. Each conversation leaves a mark. Each hour invested yields fruit. Your life begins to feel coherent, meaningful, whole. Busyness creates motion, but depth creates direction. Busyness creates noise, but depth creates music. Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean. You can skim stones across the surface all day, each skipping lightly before sinking. Or you can dive beneath the waves, entering a world most never see. The choice is yours, the surface or the depths. Skimming is easy, but shallow. Diving is harder, but transformative. And only in the depths do you find the treasures of the sea. To embrace less but deeper, you must also release the fear of missing out. For the world will always offer more opportunities, more distractions, more paths than you can ever walk. You cannot do everything, but you can do a few things well, and those few, done deeply, will shape your life far more than 1,000 scattered attempts. The fear of missing out fades when you realize that by saying no to the trivial, you are saying yes to the profound. The fruit of this practice is not only mastery, but peace. For when your life is not pulled in every direction, when your energy is not divided among countless trivialities, you feel lighter. You breathe easier. You move with intention instead of frenzy. The noise of the world may still roar around you, but inside you carry a center that is calm and unshakable. And yet the journey does not end here. Less but deeper is not the destination. It is the threshold. Beyond it lies the breakthrough, the place where sustained focus, practiced over time, leads to transformation, where doing less but better does not merely make you productive, but changes who you are. This is the final step on the map, the breakthrough that comes only through depth. Every map leads to a destination, and the map of focus is no different. Each step, resisting distraction, practicing deep work, guarding the gold of your time, shaping your environment, embracing the power of less but deeper, has brought you closer to a final breakthrough. That breakthrough is transformation. For focus is not simply a tool to get more done. It is a force that reshapes who you are and how you live. At first, focus feels like discipline. It is the decision to turn off the noise, to silence the phone, to carve blocks of time. It feels like saying no when every impulse wants to say yes. It feels like swimming upstream against a current of distraction. But over time, something shifts. The effort becomes habit, the habit becomes character, and the character becomes freedom. You are no longer struggling to focus. You are living as a focused person. The map has become the territory. And when this transformation takes root, everything changes. Work that once felt scattered becomes coherent. Relationships that once felt shallow deepen. Ideas that once flickered faintly burn bright with clarity. Focus ceases to be a struggle against the world and becomes the way you walk through it. You no longer ask, how do I avoid distraction? Instead, you ask, what deserves the fullness of my attention today? The shift is profound. Edgar Cayce often spoke of growth as a journey of attunement, aligning yourself more closely with your higher purpose, step by step. The breakthrough of focus is this attunement in action. You begin to live in harmony with your values. You discover that what you give your attention to is what you become. Scatter your attention, and your life becomes scattered. Direct it with depth, and your life becomes whole. Breakthrough through depth is not about speed. It is about direction. It is about the slow, steady compounding of attention over time. Like drops of water carving stone, your daily moments of focus shape something lasting. Over months and years, they build a life of mastery, a legacy of depth. Others may rush past, busy with 1,000 things, but you will have built something enduring. This is the hidden promise of doing less but deeper. It does not simply make you efficient. It makes you extraordinary. It does not simply save you from noise. It reveals your true voice. It does not simply produce results. It produces transformation. Focus, at its highest, is not about tasks. It is about becoming. Imagine yourself years from now, looking back. You could remember a life of busyness, of scattered fragments, of endless noise that blurred together until nothing stood out. Or you could remember a life where you chose depth, a life where you gave yourself wholly to what mattered most, where each day carried weight, where your work, your love, your growth bore the stamp of focus. The choice is yours, and the choice you make each day becomes the story of your life. And so, we arrive at the end of the map. Every path has led here, to the truth that doing less but deeper is not a limitation, but a liberation. It frees you from the tyranny of noise, from the myth of multitasking, from the addiction to more. It leads you into the wide, quiet space where depth lives, where transformation begins, where breakthroughs are born. Now we turn to the final words, the closing reflection that gathers the journey into one truth. and leaves it shining in your heart. In the map of focus, every road, every compass point, every landmark leads back to a single truth. Doing less but deeper is the way to breakthrough. Not the shallow many, but the vital few. Not endless busyness, but profound presence. Not scattered fragments, but coherent wholeness. The world will tell you otherwise. It will tell you that success belongs to those who do more, faster, louder. It will tempt you with constant noise, endless distraction, and the false comfort of multitasking. But beneath the noise, a deeper wisdom calls. It says, slow down, choose wisely, go deep. For it is in depth that mastery lives. It is in depth that peace is found. It is in depth that you meet yourself, whole and unbroken. Focus is not about perfection. It is about attention. Each day you have a choice to scatter your attention across the trivial or to gather it into what matters. Each moment of focus is a seed. Alone, it may seem small, but over time, these seeds grow into forests of accomplishment, of wisdom, of beauty. The life you long for is not built in grand bursts, but in steady moments of undivided presence. Edgar Cayce's teachings remind us that the mind is a channel, a receiver and transmitter of energy. What you focus on, you magnify. What you give attention to, you empower. This is not only a psychological truth, it is a spiritual one. When you focus deeply on the vital, you align yourself with higher purpose. Your thoughts, your actions, your life become instruments of meaning. So guard your focus as you would guard gold. Clear the clutter that chokes it. Carve your time into sacred blocks. Detox from the noise that weakens it. Say no to what does not serve it, and above all, dare to do less but deeper. For the world does not reward the shallow skimmer. It rewards the one who dives, who endures, who discovers treasures hidden beneath the surface. And remember this, the reward of focus is not only what you produce, but who you become. You become someone unshaken by noise, undistracted by trivialities, unafraid of stillness. You become someone who moves with clarity, who lives with intention, who creates with depth. This is the true breakthrough, not a project finished, but a person transformed. So let this be your guiding truth. Doing less but deeper is not the slower path. It is the surer one. It is the way of mastery, of peace, of legacy. The world may clamor for your attention, but you hold the map, and the map points here, to depth, to focus, to the quiet strength that changes everything. Hey, no. The world rewards those who go deep. And when you choose depth, you discover the gold that never loses value, the power of focus.